The 20th century witnessed the rise of ideologies that promised utopia but delivered unimaginable suffering. Two names stand out as symbols of this tragic paradox: Mao Zedong and Joseph Stalin. Both men, driven by visions of radical societal transformation, unleashed terror and famine upon their own people. Their reigns of power, though separated by geography and ideology, were tragically similar in their brutality and disregard for human life. This essay delves into the lives and legacies of these two dictators, comparing their methods and the devastating consequences of their policies. From the rice paddies of China to the wheat fields of Ukraine, millions perished under their rule. Mao's great leap forward and Stalin's forced collectivization led to famines of unimaginable scale. Their security apparatuses, driven by paranoia and a lust for absolute control, created vast systems of labor camps where millions were imprisoned, tortured, and worked to death. This is the grim story of two revolutions betrayed, a tale of ambition gone mad, and a stark reminder of the fragility of freedom in the face of unchecked power. The echoes of their atrocities still resonate today, a warning from history we must never forget. By understanding the horrors they inflicted, we can better guard against the siren song of tyranny in our own time. For the sake of the millions who suffered and perished, their stories must be told and the lessons learned, lest we repeat the mistakes of the past. Mao Zedong, born in 1893, rose from rural poverty in Hunan province. His intellectual curiosity led him to teaching and revolutionary ideas. Inspired by Marxist-Leninist ideology, he co-founded the Chinese Communist Party in 1921. Through guerrilla warfare, Mao positioned the CCP as defenders of China, leading to their eventual victory. Joseph Stalin's path to power was a brutal ascent marked by poverty, paranoia, and an unyielding thirst for control. Born in 1878 in the small Georgian town of Gori, Stalin's early life was a world away from the halls of power he would one day occupy. His childhood was marred by poverty, an abusive father, and a strict religious upbringing that instilled in him a deep resentment for authority. A bright student, Stalin won a scholarship to attend a seminary in Tbilisi, but he soon abandoned his religious studies for the burgeoning revolutionary movement sweeping through Russia. Drawn to the radical doctrines of Marxism, Stalin joined the Bolshevik faction of the Russian Social Democratic Labor Party, a group led by the charismatic Vladimir Lenin. The Bolsheviks believed in the overthrow of the Tsarist autocracy and the establishment of a socialist state ruled by the working class. Stalin's early revolutionary activities involved organizing strikes, distributing propaganda, and even engaging in bank robberies to finance the party's operations. His ruthlessness and unwavering loyalty to Lenin quickly earned him a reputation as a capable and dangerous operative. Following the Bolshevik seizure of power in the 1917 October Revolution, Stalin's star continued to rise. He proved adept at navigating the treacherous world of Soviet politics, consolidating his power through a combination of cunning, ruthlessness, and a willingness to use violence against his opponents. After Lenin's death in 1924, Stalin outmaneuvered his rivals in a bitter power struggle, ultimately emerging as the undisputed dictator of the Soviet Union. In 1958, Mao Zedong launched the Great Leap Forward, a utopian scheme to transform China overnight from a predominantly agrarian society into an industrial powerhouse. Driven by Mao's belief in the power of mass mobilization and his desire to surpass the Soviet Union and the West in economic output, the Great Leap Forward proved to be a catastrophic miscalculation that plunged China into one of the deadliest famines in human history. The centerpiece of the Great Leap Forward was the establishment of people's communes. In these communes is where you ate all of your meals. If you didn't work, then you didn't eat. And very often the weakest and most fragile people were not fed on purpose. Their food was given to the more healthy workers, so yes, they were starved to death. There were vast collective farms where private property was abolished, and peasants were forced to work and live together under strict state control. Mao believed that by pooling labor and resources, the communes could achieve unprecedented agricultural productivity and free up manpower for industrialization. However, the reality on the ground was far different from Mao's utopian vision. The forced collectivization of agriculture led to widespread disruption, as peasants, stripped of their land and traditional farming practices, resisted the radical changes. Local officials, under immense pressure to meet unrealistic production targets, resorted to falsifying harvest figures, creating the illusion of abundance while granaries lay empty. The disastrous consequences of Mao's policies were compounded by a series of natural disasters, including droughts and floods, that devastated agricultural output. The combination of misguided policies and environmental calamities led to the Great Chinese Famine, a 3-year period of mass starvation that claimed the lives of an estimated 30 to 45 million people. Section 5: Hunger and Terror. Stalin's Harvest of Sorrow. Stalin's collectivization drive in the late 1920s and early 1930s led to terror and famine, decimating Ukraine and leaving millions dead. Ukrainians were so hungry that they reportedly ate their own babies. The forced consolidation of farms aimed to finance industrialization but met fierce resistance, resulting in the Holodomor. Millions starved, their bodies left unburied, a chilling reminder of the human cost of totalitarian ideology. The Cultural Revolution, initiated by Mao Zedong in 1966, was a decade-long period of political and social chaos in China. Mao aimed to reassert his control over the Communist Party by purging remnants of capitalist and traditional elements from Chinese society. Millions of people were persecuted, including intellectuals, party officials, and ordinary citizens. The Red Guards, mostly young students, played a significant role in this upheaval. Students would arrest or even torture or kill their own teachers and family members if they felt that they were traitors. The Cultural Revolution caused widespread destruction of cultural heritage and severe economic disruption, leaving a lasting impact on Chinese society. Under Stalin's rule, a pervasive atmosphere of fear and suspicion took hold. The Great Purge, or the Great Terror, saw millions accused of treason, espionage, and other crimes against the state. Many were executed or sent to the Gulag labor camps. Men were sent to labor camps for reasons such as an officer wanted his wife. If you owned land or a business, you were thrown in jail because this was a socialist society that saw the rich as enemies. People were encouraged to steal from each other because you weren't allowed to own things. Everything belonged to everyone. In these labor camps deep inside of Siberia, people were often worked until they froze to death. In below freezing temperatures, some walked around in only underwear, since they were prisoners and enemies of the state, so the country would spare no resources for them. Stalin's paranoia extended to his closest allies, resulting in a series of show trials and purges within the Communist Party itself. There's a story of how Stalin would enter into a theater and everyone would stand up and clap for hours. People would fall out from exhaustion because the first person to stop clapping would be considered a traitor and be sentenced to 20 years in prison. Trust was a rare commodity, and the shadow of Stalin's suspicion loomed over every aspect of Soviet life. In Mao's China, the establishment of labor camps, known as laogai, mirrored the Soviet gulags. These camps were designed to reform prisoners through labor and indoctrination. Political dissidents, intellectuals, and anyone deemed counter-revolutionary were sent to these camps. The harsh conditions, forced labor, and ideological re-education aimed to break the spirit of the inmates. The laogai system became an integral part of Mao's mechanism for maintaining control and suppressing opposition. Stalin's regime didn't just rely on physical imprisonment. The fear of surveillance and denunciation created a psychological prison for the Soviet people. The NKVD, Stalin's secret police, had informants everywhere. People were afraid to speak freely, even in their own homes. The constant threat of being reported for anti-Soviet behavior kept the population in a state of perpetual anxiety. This invisible prison was as effective as any barbed wire fence. The atrocities committed under Stalin and Mao have left lasting scars on their respective nations. The memories of purges, labor camps, and the culture of fear continue to haunt the collective consciousness. These dark chapters in history serve as grim reminders of the devastating impact of totalitarian regimes. The echoes of these atrocities resonate through generations, underscoring the importance of remembering and learning from the past to prevent such horrors from recurring.